So hello and welcome everybody that's tuning in today. I have a special guest, a special friend that I want to introduce you to. My name is Roberta. I think most of you that will be tuning into this video would know who I am. I work with individuals to help them to remember who they are, to reclaim their medicine, their sacred medicine, their power, to embody it, and to live a sacred, magical life in whatever that feels, looks like for you. So today, said I have a special person. I have Cindy here with me, and Cindy and I are going to talk probably about a few things. We're going to try to keep it on topic of a
Succinct,
few
yes.
things. A few things. Now, I met Cindy over 2 years ago, and I kind of saw her weaving around at this event I was at with this leather jacket. And it took me like a year and a bit later to say, were you there? I think I saw you. Were you wearing a leather jacket? That was my imprint of her. But since then, it's been us flowing through doing our numerology in from like the foundations through the advanced numerology to sacred contracts, along with BrainGame, which we are going to talk about BrainGame, and with mind shift and so many other things like
All
channeling,
the things.
money mojo. I mean, we got things like so we're dancing a lot together, her and I. Plus, you might have seen her and I together already in some other topics from Cindy's Rebel Radio, which was so much fun. So, why I'm here today to introduce you to Cindy is because Cindy has the BrainGame that's going to be coming up in January. And I went through the BrainGame, which is a most emotional mastery program for 10 weeks. And I went through it late summer to about mid September, I think the last time that we ran through it.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about that. I want Cindy to talk about that, but we also want to talk about a little bit of the numerology because we both love numerology. And we want to talk about the fact that here we are at the end of 2020 when we're recording this. And we want to talk about the energies that are coming up, what we're feeling, what we're seeing, and why BrainGame is going to be so important to have as a sacred medicine tool for mastery for ourselves as we enter into 2021. So, Cindy, introduce yourself to my community, my peeps that, journey along with me in my life.
Thank you for having me. That's quite the introduction, and I'm so excited for our conversation today. My name is Cindy Van Arnam. I'm a quantum numerologist and wealth activator, and oftentimes people kind of go, what does that mean? It means that I help you to understand who you are, what you want, and how to get it. So I do that through the use of numerology as my first go-to tool that I look at. I can forecast and look at, just like we can predict the weather, we're also predicting the energetic influences that we'll be experiencing in the time ahead. And we can use that and leverage that to our advantage. And I speak specifically to wealth for entrepreneurs. I believe in the redistribution of wealth on the planet, and I believe that that comes through the hands of entrepreneurs, and that more entrepreneurs need to step up and activate their wealth. And we do that not through the mind, but through the energy that we're experiencing. So I'm all about wealth and numbers. They call me the numbers girl.
Yeah, definitely. And she gets so excited about it when we're in talking to anything about numbers, just a little bit. Like I think I get excited about it. Cindy goes to another level. Like it's awesome to see. So let me tell you, if you're ever working with Cindy, which we kind of hope you're going to be in the new year, you will get to experience that, and it just like flows right from her to you. So yeah, Cindy, I mean, so we're going to talk a little bit about the numbers that are coming up.
I think that's where we can start is kind of like what's coming in 2021 and what's shaking.
Yeah. And, I was just thinking like, obviously you're all about the wealth, but the wealth within for entrepreneurs about that we need, it's important for us to tap into our wealth. And it's not an easy thing. I mean, we're all kind of wanting the wealth for various reasons. We want the abundance, and for us understanding our relationship, which is why the BrainGame is going to be so great to understand that component of the emotional and energetic feelings and masteries of how wealth what kind of relationship we have with wealth and how we're feeling, so we can shift up any of those heavy patterns that are in us, the ones that are outdated, that's kind of blocking us, keeping us away from our own abundance, from our own wealth that we need. We all need wealth to be doing the things we want to, and so that we can support everybody else and help everybody else lift up. And that's the key thing with you, is that as moving through our blocks, claiming that wealth is healthy and good, and that we can all be wealthy and support each other.
Yeah, God didn't give you your gifts for you to starve.
Did you hear that, everybody? It's just everybody, did you hear that?
Yeah. The more money you make, the more people you can help.
That's right. And the more that we are all successful and wealthy and looked after and nourished, we all are. It's not just about us. So we know with the numbers that are coming up, what's happening with what we just went through. 2020 was a 4 energy year about us getting really back to like what's important, getting back to the foundations of things, and what new foundations. And then we're being called to 2021 in literally just a few days, or maybe when you're just tuning into it might be just the start of the new year, but we're going into a 5 energy day, and or 5 energy year collectively, meaning all of us are going to be affected by this 5. Now, I must say, I'm a ruling number 5. I walk with the collective year, so I'll have a personal year of a 5.
Oh,
it's going to be 5, 5, 5, just like I came from a lot of 4s this past year.
Fun.
So when I think 5, right, I'm thinking the freedom. I was thinking of freedom and flow and change that is going to be asked of us. I mean, we're asked a lot with things, right? But now, how are we going to master that? How are we going to master it, right? Emotionally, and how are we going to show up? So we know we're being called back to our heart even more deeply with the 5.
Yep.
It's going to be emotional, because the 5 is an emotional energy filling out across the board in many different ways, which is, I love that, because that's kind of how I run my life and who I am. So, Cindy, what are you feeling about 2021? What you know that's coming in? We both just came from yesterday. We did Joy's, her deep dive into the forecast of the year. So, what's coming up for you? What are you seeing and feeling?
Yeah, it's always fun. I always try to do my own personal forecast before Joy does hers, so that I'm not colored by what she said collectively. But man, my forecast was pretty on point with hers, which was really cool to see. The 5 for me is about evolution. And we're at this tipping point in our collective society where we get to choose. Are we going to keep trying to force what wasn't working and trying to make that work and fighting against it? Or are we going to take that leap of faith and just dive right headfirst in? I always think of this as like the swan dive into life. Are you willing to take that leap of faith and jump right in? We know that we're headed towards unity consciousness. We know that there is love and compassion available to us on this planet, especially in the circles that we travel in. We see this all the time. And yeah, you watch the news and it's not pretty, or there's other things going on outside of ourselves, but deep down inside, there's that trust and that faith that we are moving towards something absolutely freaking incredible. And this year is the bridge to that. So yes, it's going to be emotional, but emotions are the drivers. Emotions are what create what we want. And so for me, as a ruling number 4, I don't like to look at my emotions. I like to just pretend they don't exist. And then they kind of rear up later and go, oh crap, now I have to. So I've learned how to navigate that. And I'm understanding that more and more because of the brain game. The brain game has led me to this deep scientific understanding of how our emotions create our reality, and that we're not at the whim of our emotions. Anger doesn't just happen and then you're screwed by it. It comes in and then it goes out, just like it's a flow, right? Everything is a flow. Bliss comes in and goes out. Sadness comes in and goes out. And you've got this like 15-minute window of emotions that are flying around, and you're not at the whim of them. You get to choose them. That's your superpower. And I think that's what's really coming in for this 5 energy year, is the ability to really tap into our superpower as a human being, and to start using these emotions to our advantage and feeling each and every one of them and going, oh, I wonder where I can move this. What can I do with this? We have the ability to move this energy in any way we choose, but we need to know how to do that. And that comes from the brain game.
Yeah. And I was thinking, okay, so the brain game, because, we have that power, we have the choice, we can move and become aware within our mind of the emotions. And yet, I always want to put, when I say the brain game, I want to say emotional mastery, because we need to come aware of what's going on, right? That we are in a certain state. It doesn't need to control us. We can have that discernment of where we are and where do we actually want to be? Where's the next higher vibration of alignment that we know we are truly within our heart space want to be in? And the brain game helps you figure out what steps and process to actually move you into that alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so powerful. And I remember the first time I took the brain game, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I thought, oh, it's just another course. I have taken every personal development course you can think of, you name it, I've taken it. And I was still getting the same results over and over, as a definition of insanity. Because what was happening is I was going through these personal development courses and they were helping me to clear out the space and create a vacuum, but then they didn't tell me what to do next.
Yeah.
And so what happens is our brain just immediately fills in the gap with habitual habits. And so we go right back to what we were doing before. We go right back to that programming, because our mind is nothing but a computer that says, okay, well, you told me to do this 20 years ago, so we're just going to keep doing that until you tell me something different. The brain game teaches you how to do it different, so that you're filling that vacuum up with the life of your dreams, not just the old habits.
And it helps you understand the frequency, feel the emotional frequency, how to reach for the one that is what you truly want, and to understand the one that is presenting within you. So there's going to be, there's the understanding of the emotions that you have the power, but there's also understanding the frequencies within yourself. I have no doubt that Cindy's going to be doing some Q in that, because that's something that we've been diving into, part of the mind shift program that we've been in for the last few months, and knowing how to navigate, how to bring your own personal power embodiment to where you want to go. So there's all these beautiful tools. And the other, I feel like the later part of the brain game is about helping get really clear why and what you want and where you're going. So there's so many different levels and steps to it.
Yeah. And maybe we can just kind of dive into each week, so that there's an understanding of what this looks like. So it is a 10-week program. And the first 4 weeks we spend really deep diving and untangling the past, untangling that computer program that's running up here between the ears. And that first 4 weeks is really, really powerful on its own. But then you've got this beautiful vacuum. You've got this, it's like when you go to clear out your closet so you can make space for new clothes. That's really what it is. And so we're creating this space of, what do you want? Now that you're no longer programmed, what do you want? And so we dive into that with very specific tools. And because sometimes it's hard to figure out what we want. When we've been so programmed, it's I don't know. Right? So we've got some specific tools to help you really understand what that is. And we dive into some of your numerology, and anybody who takes Brain Game with me gets a blueprint. So you get that full personality report of who you are, your possibility, how you best show up in the world, your rhythm for the year, all of those pieces. And from there, we start creating this alignment. And alignment is this personal development buzzword where everybody's like, do we really know what that means? Oh, my chakras are aligned. What does that even mean? It means that you're choosing to align with something. So we're doing a choose your own adventure brain game. Michelle Lane and I are coming in to do 2 different versions of it. The brain game can be used for any area of your life. I am passionate about creating wealth for entrepreneurs. Michelle is passionate about embodiment and helping with well-being. So whichever you feel most pulled to. For me specifically, I start talking about wealth frequency and what does it feel like to have wealth in your life? What does it feel like to feel wealth in the body? And what does that really mean? And then we start building momentum towards that. We start creating that, okay, well, what's the next step? And how do I do this? And you know, the mind likes to go, okay, that's cool. Now I know what I want. How? How is the biggest dream killer. So we teach you the tools of what to do next and what to do next. And then you just automatically create that law of compound interest where you're just taking those few steps every single day. And boom, before you know it, you have what you want. We dive a little bit into the quantum field and do some magic too.
Which is magical in itself. Like,
Yes.
It's going to be sprinkled with various magic. That's what's going to happen.
Well, my word for 2021 is magic. So,
well, there you go.
Gotta have some magic in there. But I believe in bridging the gap between the science and the magic. As a ruling number 4, my mind wants to understand. And what I've discovered is with most ruling numbers, if the mind is on board, it's a lot easier to take the actions rather than the mind fighting it and going, well, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand. If your mind is like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense, then it's like, yeah, okay, let's go do the thing. Right? Whereas if the mind doesn't understand and there's resistance and all these pieces come in and you don't want to play.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to break, it's like clearing the path for that, definitely the bridge that we're walking through and going to peeking through for 2021. It's that clear so we can understand and have also invite the rest of us to come on board.
Yeah. It's that, again, it brings it back to that unity, right? Not just my mind is doing the things and I'm an entrepreneur and so my mind is running the show. It's how does this feel to be doing this? Does this feel like a wealthy activity? How does my body feel right now? Am I enjoying this? The tension in the shoulders, or maybe I've got some anxiety, or maybe I'm a little bit stressed out about money. What's going on? Because if you have that awareness, and I will sound like a broken record during Brain Game, awareness is everything. I say that every week. But when you have that awareness, that's when you get to choose and interrupt it or amplify it for more. If you're not aware of what's going on, then you just keep doing like a monkey.
Yeah, you can't get anywhere. You're just spinning. You're in. I have this image of like a quicksand, like a muddy pit that you just really kind of like not going where. So you need these tools to bring it all together in the awareness of it all and how they play together. You need to play well with all that you are. Let's just put it that way. You need to learn how to play well with all that you are. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. The great thing if with Cindy and what she's going to be offering for her component of the brain game is if you're an entrepreneur, if you're like feeling into like, I really want to feel wealthy. I want to understand what wealth is. I want to move through some of these obstacles, these blocks. What is it that what's stopping me from understanding what that feels like, what that looks like, and how do I actually get that into my life? How do I embody it? Because it's a full embodiment and start changing up the frequency, aligning with things. So that is, if that's like calling to you, you're like, yes, Roberta, yes, 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 you're definitely going to want to choose your own adventure with Cindy. Now we know with Michelle, like I said, Michelle is going to be taking the angle with her sacred medicine in well-being and with the body. And how do you move through the emotions and the mastery and everything that's aligning with vitality? Right? Well-being. First of all, we need it all.
Right. And I mean, really, the wealth journey for entrepreneurs is going to help you understand the body more. The embodiment journey with Michelle is going to help you understand wealth more, right? They cross together. It's just a matter of who you resonate with most as your instructor, as your mirror for what you're going to be learning, and, kind of what your focus is for 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're definitely, I would think it's going to be a hard choice, but, and let's know, and
And
you will know if you're intrigued, you're like, oh, I really need to check out what this brain game is.
yeah.
I'm going to be inviting you more deeply into obviously you're getting to know Cindy right now, but also Michelle and her medicine and tools to go check out Michelle and what she feels. And you will know what one at the moment, just in the moment. Neither one, both fantastic. But what one do you
Absolutely.
want to choose? What in this moment is going to be the best for you? And either way, the brain game itself is going to be you're going to be able to use it. Once you walk through the 10 weeks, you're going to see as you journey through that, how you can move it and pull it into the different areas of your life, even beyond wealth and well-being.
Yeah,
Right?
you can use it in
Into
your
love and
relationships and
relationships.
all the things. Yeah.
You know, so many things, right?
There is no wrong way to choose.
No, there's not. So now going back to like the forecasting of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
we know that January to March still going to be playing out a bit of the energetics of 2020.
Oh, yes.
So things are still moving into those energetics that we're trying to weave through it as we're crossing and coming over up to the peak of the bridge, as Joy said yesterday. I'm like, that's perfect.
That was a good analogy.
You can see the horizon kind of thing.
Yeah.
So why not? I'm thinking the start of the year, we all have time, a little bit more time still.
Mm-hmm.
I know here in Ontario, we are on a lockdown, the whole province.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some more space. We're looking once again at what 2020 has brought up for us.
Mm-hmm.
We will still be navigating, like I said, at the beginning of that year of 2021, some of these energetics. So why not harness and master, bring some power, because the year is also going to be about us dropping into more deeply our own power, who we are, because we know there's a flipping point that happens in April and May. We have a lovely ending in April and the new beginning in May, celebration in June. The whole year, is going to be magical. It's going to be a magical year.
It's going to be a magical
That's
year.
a really good word to have for next year. Mine's liberation.
Ooh,
So
I like that too. Yeah.
Magical liberation. So this is the perfect time that you guys are starting the brain game. And so I just want to talk about those dates.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard us say that it's 10 weeks long. It's a class every week.
Mm-hmm.
So, Cindy, I had written down, so Cindy, I have you starting on January 11th.
Yes.
And it's at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yes, and recordings will be available immediately afterwards as well. So if you can't make the live class, it's totally fine. You will still get a lot from the recordings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You kind of have to almost just listen and integrate.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt when I ran through it. I was like, okay, I'm listening, I'm taking in, and it's something you're always going to want to keep running through and going back. Yeah. You'll need integration time, up leveling.
Yeah.
And another, when it's right, you'll feel the call to go back into it. So you have the recording.
Yeah.
So Cindy's January 11th, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yep.
Are they hour or a half? How long's the class?
They're about an hour. Yeah.
An hour?
Yeah.
And Michelle is going to be the 14th, I think you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
At 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Standard Time. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll be sharing more information and everything about it with you guys on how to go find out more. And you can ask me questions personally. And I know Cindy and Michelle are both available and would love to hear from you if you have any questions.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if it's a decision that you need somebody to talk to about and just kind of dive in a little bit deeper, I'm offering discovery calls as well. So if you want to hop on Zoom with me, get to know me, chat with me, I'm available for that as well.
Perfect. So I'll make sure I'll have all those links too when I'm sharing out this stuff, so you guys can just directly reach out and have your discovery call and whatever you might need. So do we need to we could go off on many other things, but anything coming top of mind for you?
Yeah, I think I just kind of want to wrap up with a conversation of what 2020 was really about and what 2021 is bringing to us. So 2020, obviously very much about the body, very much about our foundations. As we noticed, all of our foundations crumbled. The healthcare system, the educational system, our political system, all of it was rearing its ugly head to be seen for what it really is. And the illusion was starting to be shown for what it is. But in that 4 energy of 2020, people were a little bit more willing to play by the rules. People were a little bit more willing to wear the mask and stay at home and do the things. And now that we're already feeling this 5 energy, we started feeling it back in November. And in that 5 energy, this deep desire for freedom, where now we're starting to see anti-mask rallies. Oh, heck no, I'm not staying home. I'm not wearing my mask. Don't tell me I can't see my family for Christmas, et cetera, right? So we're already starting to see that push for freedom. And I think it's really important that we understand our own power in that, and that knowing that our freedom doesn't come from outside of us, it comes from inside of us. And when we have the emotional mastery and the self-mastery pieces that the brain game teaches us, then we can create that freedom without pain, without struggle. It doesn't have to be hard. And this was one of my biggest lessons through teaching the brain game over 100 times, taking it every year myself, is understanding that there is no mountain. The only mountain that's there is the one that we create in between our ears. And when we understand how our brain and our heart and our body operate together, the mountain disappears and we can just float down the river, and it will be an easy path to freedom. So I think that's really important to understand. And starting off your year with this gift and investment in yourself is going to be so incredibly powerful for you as we cross the bridge into the new evolution of where humanity is going.
Yeah. And we know, so freedom, we all want freedom, right?
Yeah.
Freedom, with the word, the freedom, it's got to come from our heart and our space. And we know 2021 is about coming into that heart space, right? And it's about flowing, trusting, flowing, and stepping into your medicine, your power.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand what tools you might need to help you.
Yeah, and I always say, just because you brain game doesn't mean stuff doesn't still happen. I mean, yesterday I was flat out on my couch, bawling my eyes out. It still happens, but I know how to navigate it. And I know there's nothing wrong. And so I can sit in that deep emotion without judgment and just love myself through it. The old me would have been like, oh, there's so many things wrong with me, and I did that wrong, and how could I possibly, you're so stupid. Like, the inner voice will just take over if you don't have these tools in place. Having these tools in place sets you free.
Yeah. So it's really like, how long do you want to be? Because there's always into these states, because they're always going to be life. Life happens, emotions happen, different things challenge us, the duality. But how long do you need to stay in it,
Right.
in the mud, in that muck, in the emotional pain that you cause yourself because of the thoughts and the feelings and the things that are rising? With the brain game, it gives you the tools, right, to process, to be more compassionate for yourself, which next year is asking us to be more compassionate for ourselves and others, which is another theme. So more compassionate, but also you can just navigate through it much more quickly. You feel the empowerment, even if you're on a couch bawling and whatever, you're like, you have the higher understanding and power just already there, frequency going, okay, I'm in this moment, but I know where I have these tools and how I'm going to navigate through this in a much quicker, effective way, and in a way that you start cutting the pattern, the echo. You know, the echo, guys, that we're like, oh my God, am I in this again? I know this. You start cutting that shit out, so like,
Exactly.
So it does definitely happen, and life happens. So there is stuff that's always popping up. And we started our call before we start recording, talking about, so we're like, how you doing? And we're like,
full moon.
We're like, full, because we're filming this on the last full moon, a Cancer full moon, all about the emotions, the last one of this year. And there's been like I feel like through one day I might do this little roller coastery thing, but I'm lifting, I'm, shifting through it and shifting through. We were also saying many different things, not just staying stuck in one kind of energetic imprint. We're navigating and moving through many things with an empowerment and compassion for ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, we're waves and particles. We're meant to be moving all the time. We're not meant to be stuck in the mud. And I remember having total pity parties for myself and just being like, I just want to sit here, pout, and feel miserable. And I get it. I still do that sometimes. But I also know that I have the choice to get out, should I choose to. And so now that I have the tools to do that, I find myself reaching for those tools more often than not. And the little inner critic, she's really quiet these days. Yeah.
You can listen to her in a different way when she does start talking.
Yeah.
We'll talk with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this lovely imagery of, I was saying mud before, being stuck, but also this, like, how far into the water, how deep right now with you, the things that are emotionally coming up for you that you've been working through possibly for years, how deep do you get pulled down through the water? And how quickly can you rise up and float and relax and surrender on the surface and enjoy the clouds and the sun and the feeling of the water? Like water, of course, emotions, energetics, element, right? So how far, if you're someone that's like wondering about this, I would say ask yourself, how far do you go down into the water?
Yeah.
How many times? What's the echo? What's the pattern? And are you ready to go, like, breathe in a big, beautiful breath of fresh air and go, I want that freedom, that power, that surrender, that I can bring myself up to the surface and enjoy.
Yeah. You don't have to stay in the pattern. You don't ever have to stay in the pattern.
And we know wealth, which, like we've said, Cindy's going to be, that's her medicine is.
It's my jam.
That's her jam. You're going to get wealth activation, entrepreneur, kick-ass, numerology, cueing. I mean, there's going to be a lot there.
All the things.
Cindy keeps it real. I mean,
yes.
That's the thing I really appreciate and love about you, Cindy, is the, vulnerability, the openness of sharing your truth and your journey.
Yeah.
And not being, the superficial, I got it all organized, and this is how it is. I got this great, program, I'm going to teach you. No, you're going to hear the journey too that Cindy has been through, and that the compassion and love that she has for herself and her journey, but that the invitation that she offers also to each of you to have for yourselves, and that she can hold that space too for you. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do swear. So if you take the journey with me, there will be F-bombs dropped.
Yeah. I
keep it real.
Yeah, keep it real. And you might find that after 10 weeks with her, you might have a little more bomb dropping yourself, because mine just naturally wants to come out when I'm around Cindy. And
it happens. But you're also going to learn a lot of stories, because I share all my vulnerable stories when I teach the brain game. And I talk about where I was 4 years ago, and talk about how I was with money and wealth and living PayPal to PayPal and thinking money was what was in my bank account. Like, I talk about all of that throughout the brain game. And I don't hold back.
No, I love it. The realness, the real. So as we wrap up here, any last thing that's coming to mind that you feel like they need to know? Like I said, I'm going to be giving you guys links so that you can find out more. Cindy's open for discovery calls. If you have some questions, you want to dive in a little bit deeper to support you in making a decision or just learning a little bit more.
Yeah.
Anything we're forgetting?
I don't think so. The one thing, I am going to convince Joy to come in and do some channeling for us in the brain game as well. If anybody who has not experienced Joy and Jonah's channeling sessions, it is mind-blowing and heart-blowing and all the things. And I think it's something that's really going to support us as we move through the brain game together in this journey, and really lean into some of those deeper questions that you might have that Maybe you're not discovering on your own. We can just get that little nudge from Joy and Jonah. So my intention is to bring her in for at least one, if not two of those sessions. We'll see what I can do with her. And yeah, it's 10 weeks and you will be a completely different person at the end of those 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Take a leap of faith.
Yeah. And I take a leap of faith. So small, sometimes it's just those small steps and then it's a leap of faith, right? Like, but when you know, you'll know when you need to.
Yeah.
I think most people are, circling around me these days have kind of gotten an understanding of who Joy is, but there might be someone that's watching this video thinking, who the heck is Joy? What are they talking about, Joy? Who's this Jonah? Let's just give a little backstory here of who we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So Joy Kingsborough. Yeah. This is where, we've anchored in. Joy has, created the BrainGame. We have been Cindy's been doing it for the last few years. I just went into it in summertime for the 10-week program. And so we're referring to the medicine and magic that has been the foundation of this BrainGame, and us learning it as to master within ourselves, but also for those that feel ready, like Cindy, who's been teaching it now for quite a few times to people like you, hopefully that will be joining, but also her clients and everybody else. So Joy is also someone who we are doing a lot of these other programs, as you heard me talk about at the beginning. But she also channels a collective she refers to as Jonah. And there's such medicine and magic there. So she's referring to having Joy come in and channel Jonah to help you weave through those areas that you just might need some tweaking. There might be some block, like whatever it is that just might help move and shift you a little bit more to help you along the journey of it. Yeah. Do we want to say anything else about Joy? Are we missing?
Yeah, I think maybe just some background so Joy and I met 4 years ago at, I think, the same event that you and I met at that was 2 years prior. And I was at the time working as a virtual assistant. So I was building websites in the back ends of people's businesses. And I thought if I just worked a little bit harder, that I would somehow break through and be successful. And it wasn't working. In the first 6 months of my business, I was burnt out. I was exhausted. I was working 15-hour days, 7 days a week, hustling, grinding, living PayPal to PayPal. And Joy showed up in my world. And everything changed from there because I took the BrainGame through her. I became so obsessed with the BrainGame that I practically forced her to let me teach it. And I've taught it so many times since then. And every time I teach it, I learn something new about myself. It's not just about me teaching this to other people. This is why I love it so much, is because every time you go through it, you learn another layer. And then I take it myself through Joy every year. Oh, that's another piece. After you take the BrainGame, you get lifetime access and you get to retake it every year with Joy. So you become alumni of the BrainGame and you become part of this huge community of students who've taken the BrainGame, who are taking it every year, and you just get to add another layer, peel another layer off, right? Yeah, so working with Joy has absolutely 100% changed my life for a millionth times better. And it just keeps getting better and better. And I know that Joy and Jonah together are a powerhouse.
Yeah. I mean, if you have an experience, hopefully. Really enjoying talking her into that. I'm sure.
I'll make it happen.
Yeah. So that's who we're referring to, and that's some of the history and the roots there of the connection to the BrainGame and Joy. And the other thing is, you may find once you run through the program and that yourself, if you are someone that's a healer, a coach, a mentor, in this realm, this world that Cindy and I both walk in within our medicine, most likely what will happen is that you'll want to start teaching it yourself and sharing it.
It happens quite often, and we've got a pathway for that to happen if it's something that you want to do. Absolutely.
So it's, another stepping stone, another bridge, another part of the medicine into your basket. I'm
passionate. I want brain gaming to be a household verb. That's my goal.
Brain gaming. Brain gaming. Let's start hashtagging. I was like queuing that and hashtagging. Do the brain gaming or, brain gaming hashtag, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we got everything that they really need to know at this time. So thank you for everyone that tuned in to be with us in this conversation. And thank you, Cindy, for being here and sharing your medicine and magic in the world. I know I'm going to be looking forward to running through the brain game again myself, because it's just, it is part of something. It's like a tune-up, like almost like every year, it's a really good tune-up for yourself and a check-in. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and
Thank you so much for having me.
thanks being here. I mean, her and we did really good. I mean,
I know we could go on for like 3 hours.
so you guys should all know we did really well. Yeah, thank you so much, Cindy. And thank you everybody that joined.